Hello, and welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Stephen King. Today, we're exploring Dr. Sleep, not just a sequel to The Shining, but a work that stands on its own, blending horror, fantasy, and redemption in a story about trauma, addiction, and the battle for the human soul. A question for you. Before we begin, let me ask you, backhand index pointing right, do you believe Danny Torrance's greatest fight was against the supernatural, or against himself? Leave your thoughts in the comments as we go. From The Shining to Dr. Sleep. Written more than 30 years after The Shining, Dr. Sleep continues the journey of Danny Torrance, the gifted child whose psychic ability, the Shine, exposed him to the horrors of the Overlook Hotel. But this is not the same story repeated. The Shining. Claustrophobic psychological terror set in isolation. Dr. Sleep. A road novel, spiritual odyssey, and battle against predators roaming America's highways. King himself once said he wanted to explore what happened to Danny after the Overlook. The answer is brutal: trauma, alcoholism, and a life teetering on the edge. Danny, like his father Jack, drowns himself in alcohol. But unlike Jack, his story isn't about descent into madness, it's about the possibility of redemption. In many ways, Danny represents King himself. By the time he wrote Dr. Sleep, King had been sober for decades, and he poured his own struggles with addiction into Danny's character. Danny's arc is about learning that healing doesn't mean erasing the past, but confronting it. His gift, the Shine, becomes both a burden and a mission. Working in a hospice, he earns the nickname Dr. Sleep, using his abilities to ease the dying into peace. The villains of Dr. Sleep are the True Knot, a group of quasi-immortal nomads who feed not on blood, but on steam, the psychic essence released when gifted children suffer and die. Led by Rose the Hat, the chilling leader of this predatory group. Hiding in plain sight, predators disguised as everyday travelers. Metaphors for modern evil, representing consumerism, addiction, and parasitism. Rose the Hat, in particular, deserves attention. Charismatic, cruel, and disturbingly human, she's one of King's most unforgettable villains, not a mindless monster, but a leader with purpose, vision, and terrifying hunger. Dr. Sleep explores ideas larger than its plot. Addiction and recovery. Danny's battle with alcohol reflects King's own life. The novel insists that acknowledging weakness is the first step toward strength. Inheritance of trauma. Danny is haunted not only by ghosts, but by his father's shadow. The novel asks, are we doomed to repeat what we inherit, or can we break the cycle? Death and spirituality. Through the hospice scenes, King writes some of his most poignant passages, reminding us that horror isn't only in monsters, but in mortality itself. Good versus evil, not in grand, cosmic battles, but in small, human choices: to drink or not, to fight or surrender, to protect or exploit. The 2019 adaptation by Mike Flanagan is worth examining. Unlike Kubrick's The Shining, which deviated heavily from King's book, Dr. Sleep attempts to bridge the two. The novel ends differently than the film, but Flanagan carefully integrates Kubrick's imagery, the Overlook Hotel, still standing in the movie, while honoring King's themes of recovery and confrontation. Still, the differences matter. The book emphasizes Danny's redemption, his role as healer, and his bond with Abra, the young girl with immense shining. The film leans more heavily on nostalgia, visual horror, and tying threads back to Kubrick's The Shining. Connections to the King universe. The Shine isn't unique to Danny or Abra. It echoes through many of King's works, linking to The Dark Tower, It, and beyond. Psychic children, symbols of untapped human potential. Evil forces, seeking to control or destroy them. Broader tapestry, expanding the mythology. Dr. Sleep sits firmly within this broader tapestry, expanding the mythology while still telling a deeply personal story. Final reflection. In the end, Dr. Sleep is not simply about ghosts or monsters. It's about whether the scars of trauma define us forever or whether we can choose another path. Danny's journey isn't easy, and it isn't perfect, but it reminds us that even in the darkest legacies, redemption is possible. So I'll leave you with this thought. Backhand index pointing right, was Danny's greatest enemy the true knot, or was it himself? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more Stephen King analyses, and don't forget to check out our in-depth look at The Shining, linked right here. Until next time, remember, in Stephen King's universe, the most terrifying horrors are often the ones inside us.